Today I'm out harvesting wild ramps. For the sustainable harvest of wild ramps, there are no garden tools necessary. You don't need this. You certainly don't need this. You don't need this thing. What even is this? And Jesus Christ, if you're using something like that, you jump the shark. You've lost the plot. God, it looks like some sort of medieval torture device. All you need is your hot little hand, your own two paws, a little bit of respect for nature, and some common sense. I'm gonna show you. You see this great big hill behind me? Absolutely littered with wild ramps. Today I want to talk to you all about the sustainable harvest of wild ramps or wild leeks, how to go about it, how not to go about it, tell you a little bit of nerdy science stuff, and let's get into it. So today I'm out in the bush harvesting wild ramps, which happen to be hyper abundant in my area, but that is not the case everywhere. I'm just walking down a random bush trail, and right beside me here, I got a patch. Let me show you. You see what I'm saying? They're freaking everywhere around here. Here in my neck of the woods, wild ramps are kind of our local food. Everybody eats them every single year, all the time, and there's it feels like at least an endless supply. I've got them on my property. My neighbor's got 50 or 60 acres of them. I'm out on crown land right now, public land, and I'm honestly surrounded by thousands and thousands of acres of wild ramps. But just because there's a million of them doesn't mean we overharvest. There's actually a right and wrong way to harvest ramps, in my opinion. I'm gonna tell you a lot more about the method that I advocate for, which is hand harvesting. That's right, you don't need a trowel, you don't need a shovel. That's gonna disrupt the entire rhizosphere of this plant community and this ecosystem. All you gotta do is find one that's ripe, and I'll talk to you more about that in a moment. But you see these clusters of plants that are all hanging out together? They're actually kind of too close together and competing. Now, you see what I do with my hand? I just pulled those out. I'm gonna try for one right in the middle, like that. And I've just done those plants a favor, believe it or not, because I'm thinning out the herd here. There's less competition, they get more nutrients, and you've done that whole little plant community a great service. And let's talk about when to pick them. You see how all these leaves are yellowing? We're way late out into May, and these plants are ephemerals. They're starting to die off. They've collected all the sun that they need for the year. They've put all the energy back down into those bulbs for storage, and now those bulbs have swollen up big and fat. And now's the best time to harvest for bulbs if you're not just picking leaves earlier in the season. Those bulbs have gotten a whole lot bigger, and I'm gonna show you, look, when I just pull away some leaves, look at the swelling and size of some of these beauties in here. I'm on a pickling mission today, so I'm looking for big fatties to put into a brine and store for long term. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna check this little clump here. There's another one. Hey, it's actually a different species right in with Allium tricoccum. This is Allium burdickii, this guy with the green stem. And these guys are very close cousins. There's no difference whatsoever in flavor. All there is that pigment difference in the stem. They're grown right together, but really close together. So I'm gonna give these guys a little bit of a helping hand. Thin that out, move on to the next patch. Hey, let's have a look. This cluster is really thick. I'm gonna just pull back some of those leaves and just have a look. Look, right here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plants in 2 square inches. They're actually not super happy about that, believe it or not. I'm just gonna, sorry about my shoddy camera work here, but I'm just gonna pull that one out. It was under a little bit of a piece of a stick. But look, now you've thinned it out. You've got yourself a beautiful ramp, and these guys here are gonna be a whole lot happier. And we're getting some nice big fatties right at the end of the season when they're ready for that kind of harvest. Earlier on in the season, I harvest leaves only, and I only take a single leaf from each plant like that when they're good and healthy and full of flavor. And then you allow the plant to live like you're not cutting off its food supply from the sun. You get a little something for yourself, and you've helped thin out that area. But this time of year, again, I'm going for bulbs. So again, I'm gonna look down into this little clump here. Look at all the plants right there that are competing with each other. That's not good for them, man. Try and get right into the center of that. I'm gonna dig that up a little bit just to see who's free. And there's one right there. All I gotta do is twist, check it out, boom. And that guy came right out of the center, giving all the others room to expand and grow, have oxygen and all kind of benefits. And I get to take a ramp home. And the responsible way of doing this is to be very selective. Look at this hillside. So I just hit all this area, and it kind of doesn't look like much happened other than the areas 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 little spots that are really spaced apart where I took just a few bulbs and kept moving. Now this whole little colony here is going to benefit from that, and I haven't really disturbed it much at all. So let me give you another real-time example. Look at that cluster right there. Super, super dense. I'm going to dig in, see who can use a helping hand. Okay, and there are 20 plants in 2 freaking inches here. I'm just going to twist a few out. Okay, those guys are a little small, actually. I'm gonna leave those. Head up the hill a little bit. I see some bigger leaves up here. Let's have a quick look. You can't see it from down there, but there's a crazy thick cluster. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 plants in one little cluster. I'm gonna take 2 of them, thin it out. There she goes. Okay, keep moving. Try not to step on them. I'm finding holes as I go. Here's some nicer, bigger looking ones here. Yeah, those are good. That's tricoccum. And some nice big fatties. But anyway, the point is, you can see I'm spacing it out. I'm harvesting hyper selectively from clumps and moving. Now, if you're looking at the way I'm doing it by hand and thinking, oh man, no, that looks difficult. I need a trowel, I need a shovel, I need a spade to get those things out. Here's what you need to know about wild ramps if you've not harvested them already and you don't have experience with them. You're only ever going to find them occurring in a really loose, rich, loamy soil type, and it could not be easier to pull them out. It's literally just, grab and twist. Nothing to it. You don't need a shovel. Trust me. I want to show you first just how loose and loamy and beautiful that soil is. This is the kind of stuff you'd love to have in your vegetable garden or your flower garden if you're a gardener. And all I'm gonna do is reach down, get a good hold on that guy, twist, and there he is. Nothing to it. It could not be simpler or faster. Although this one's a little bit isolated, this is a pretty typical example of the clumping behavior of Allium tricoccum. It just has to do with the way the seeds grow on the little stalk and fall. They're not distributed by wind. They tend to fall right where the plant makes the seed, right? And then that makes, a little dense cluster. And then over time, they build up and build up. This is a very small one. I've seen clusters like this, like frickin' a 1/4 acre, okay? All right, here's another patch. Let's see if we can't do her some favors. Look, we got some nice big fatties right in the center. There's one, beautiful. Okay, you know what? That is really dense on this side. Why don't we move that little stick out and grab another one? Oh, there's a ton of sticks. There's 2. Okay, put those back. That side there, yeah, that could probably use a little help. There's 3. That is pretty nice and spaced out. I'm not gonna mess with those, but you see these guys here, I hope these are in the frame for you out here. They're not really, but I'm gonna take one anyway because they're really congested in there and I wanna free them up, so there you go. And that's all I'm gonna take from that little patch. Onwards. Honestly, nothing to it, and that's what it's all about. Hyper selective hand harvest. Fill baskets like that, sustainably. And I think it should go without saying that sustainable harvest ought to be the objective every single time you go out foraging. No matter what species you're after, but especially with plants like wild ramps. Their life cycle is very slow compared to other plants like them in the Allium genus, most of whom reach full maturity in 2 years. A wild ramp can take up to 7 years to reach full maturity and make seeds, so you have to be especially mindful when harvesting them. And the decisions you make about how many you're going to take out of nature have to be entirely dependent on how abundant they are in that area. So don't let anybody tell you there's some kind of hard and fast rules about just harvesting leaves or just a certain percentage of a patch, etc. There's been some junk science on this topic too, and I've seen it all over the internet. Just make responsible decisions based on how many ramps are in that area, put nature first, always, and harvest by hand just like I showed you. There's nothing to it. It really isn't complicated. As with any food you're going to harvest from the wild, take only what you need for yourself and maybe a couple people that are close to you and leave the rest be. Folks, thanks for watching the video. Chuck a like on here if you enjoyed it or learned something new about wild ramps. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you next Thursday at 7. How you like them ramps? Tons more foraging videos on the way. Cheers.